A few years ago, I was looking for used furniture and came across a great ad on Craigslist. It was a place where cheap and high-quality sofas were being sold. They had said, "Come and see us anytime," and only listed an address as contact information. I wanted to know more about the furniture, so I went to the address given. The day I headed to the address, I had mixed feelings. On the one hand, there was the excitement of getting that lovely sofa I found on Craigslist. Even though it was second-hand, the pictures I saw online looked very appealing, and I thought it would be perfect for my room. So I drove off hoping the transaction would go smoothly. But at the same time, there was a sense of unease in the back of my mind. I've done transactions through Craigslist a few times in the past, but each time I've had some minor issues and unpleasant experiences. To be honest, it took a bit of courage to visit someone's home without any prior detailed contact. Moreover, there did not include a contact number, only an address. So I went there with almost no information about who I would be meeting or what the location was like. As I got closer to the address, the surroundings also made me feel uneasy. The house was located in a quiet residential area on the outskirts. The normally comfortable silence felt heavy on this day for some reason. There were not many cars on the roads, and there were vacant lots scattered among the densely packed houses, making the area seem a bit rundown. When I parked in front of my house, I took a deep breath and slowly grabbed the door handle. Feeling my heart beating faster, I headed home with a mixture of anxiety and anticipation, hoping that my anticipation would outweigh my fears, but also gripped by the fear of what might happen. I approached the house step by step. The house was in a quiet suburban area, and at first glance, it looked like an ordinary house. Upon arriving, I pressed the doorbell, but no one answered. However, the door was slightly open, and I saw what looked like new furniture inside. So I decided to go in. I rang the doorbell several times, but there was no response from inside the house. The surroundings were silent, and for a moment, it was as if time had stopped. I became even more worried when I saw the door slightly open. I was a little confused, thinking to myself, is it a mistake that it's so open? However, there was no sound coming from inside, so I decided that someone might be returning soon. I peeked inside through the gap in the door and saw the furniture I wanted to see. It was exactly as it appeared in the online photos and looked new and in good condition. This is what I came here for, I told myself, and although I was hesitant, I decided to go inside. "Hello? Is anyone there?" I called out in a nervous voice as I slowly pushed the door open. His expression was one of confusion and alarm, and he looked around with a frown. I had my smartphone in my hand so I could make a call if something happened. As I stepped into the room, my heart started beating even faster, and it became harder to keep my cool. However, as soon as I found the furniture I was looking for, I felt a sense of relief and a strong desire to take it home. With these mixed emotions, I carefully made my way through the room. The house was strangely quiet and the atmosphere was heavy. The sofa was in the living room, but there were strange marks in the corners and a pile of old newspapers, so something felt a bit off. As soon as I stepped into the room, the silence felt strange. Something is wrong. Normally, if the owner is there, you can hear at least some noise from daily life. There are signs of life, such as the sound of a television, someone talking, or cooking in the kitchen. But the house had none of that. There is just a heavy weight of silence. Looking around, I noticed that the family Photos and ornaments on the walls were covered in dust. It looks like nobody has taken care of it for a long time. The furniture looked a bit old, the air was damp, and there was that musty smell that is so common in old houses. Also, for some reason, there is a large piece of cloth draped over the sofa in the center of the room, and it is unclear what is hidden underneath it. The cloth is folded so neatly that it seems unnatural. But there is something strange about it. The thought of this being furniture that is supposed to be for sale raises even more doubts in my mind. The windows were all closed. The curtains kept out the light, and the room was dim. This darkness made me even more anxious. Also, the low, unidentifiable sound that I can faintly hear, coming from somewhere, like a machine, but which occasionally stops intermittently, strikes fear into my heart. Is there really someone out there? That doubt began to dominate my mind. But at the same time, I felt the urge to get out of here quickly before something happened. However, my legs are heavy, and I'm so scared I can't move them. I held my breath and mustered the courage to go further. But I was still overcome by a sense of eeriness that made the hairs on my body stand on end, and a sense of fear that I was about to step into something unknown. As I continued to explore, I heard a faint sound coming from the bottom of the stairs. Although I was scared, my curiosity got the better of me. So I went towards the sound. Suddenly, the lights went out, and I felt like someone was watching me in the darkness. The moment the electricity suddenly went out, the house was plunged into complete darkness. The silence and darkness created a moment of terror that took my breath away. In the brief moment it took my eyes to adjust to the darkness, I could clearly feel my heart beating rapidly. If you listen carefully, you can hear nothing but your own rapid breathing and the distant pounding of your own heart. But in that silence, I suddenly realized that I was not alone. I felt someone's presence. It was an appeal to the senses, not the visual. A slight feeling of pressure, like air moving. Then, from somewhere in the darkness, I felt a strong gaze staring at me. It was so clear it was like a cold stroke down my spine. At that moment, I heard something moving from the corner of the room. The sound was small, but in the silence it rang out strangely loud, making me even more frightened. I couldn't move a muscle and held my breath as I peered in that direction. But it was so dark I couldn't see anything. However, I felt something slowly approaching me, and my heart nearly jumped out of my mouth. My body became rigid with fear, and I couldn't decide whether to run, hide, or even stay where I was. The room was filled with oppressive darkness and silence, and all I could do was hold my breath and wait to see what would happen. At that moment, a sound like wood creaking was heard somewhere, providing eerie evidence that something was moving in this silent space. In the darkness, I searched for something, anything that could be used as a weapon with my trembling hands. But I could only feel my hands, and my sense of helplessness only heightened my fear. At that moment, I was overcome with deep despair and fear that my life might be in real danger. The threat from the unknown was unimaginable, and the overwhelming anxiety and fear took complete control of me. Just as I was about to leave the house in a hurry, I heard a man's voice from behind me say, "Wait, there's something else I want to show you." At that moment, my body felt like it was freezing. In the darkness after the lights were turned off, I heard a voice behind me and realized that there was no place to hide anymore. The voice sounded calm and inviting at first glance, but that only made the fear grow. The words, "There's more I want to show you," seemed to hide something sinister and frightening. and a deep sense of unease spread within me. The chilling tone of his voice suggested some kind of sinister intent. I don't know what he's trying to show me or what his purpose is, but it's clear that nothing is normal. My mind was racing with the decision in extreme fear. Should I run or should I listen? I felt that voice approaching from behind, and my whole body was trembling. I couldn't move my legs and I was frozen with fear. At that moment, I heard a creaking sound somewhere in the house, and it seemed to get closer and closer, and my anxiety reached its peak. The fear that someone might appear right behind me at any moment dominated my mind. The word "wait a minute" echoed in my head over and over, shaking my consciousness as a kind of threat. Just imagining what it was he wanted to show me, and what horrible truth was hidden behind it, made my breath suffocate with fear. Along with that voice, the eerie presence enveloped me more strongly, and every step I took became a fight for survival. Without turning back to face the voice, I ran out of the house as fast as I could, jumped in my car and left the scene. While I was driving, I called the police and told them about the house and the situation I encountered. The police contacted me later and told me that the house had been abandoned several years ago, and that suspicious people were occasionally seen coming and going. This incident left me with a deep fear of never buying anything from strangers on Craigslist again. I learned the hard way the danger of being attracted by cheap prices.